A few weeks ago, I gave a review on the NES game Mega Man 4. In that review, I said Mega Man 4 was ultimately a solid game, but it did feel a little tried and true, which I did take as a good sign ultimately. But Mega Man 5 is, in fact, far more guilty of this crime than Mega Man 4 ever was. Mega Man 5 is infamous within the community for just being a simply average title. And who can blame us? Just analyzing it as a game, barring my own opinions, Mega Man 5 is an easy frontrunner for the worst in the NES saga. Design-wise, it probably dethrones Mega Man 1 and 3 at least, but in terms of innovation, it really doesn't have much going for it. Mega Man 1 set the standard, 2 upped the ante, 3 and 4 added to the stage-to-stage gameplay. So where does that lead Mega Man the 5th? Why did I say that? What? Well, in terms of my own personal analysis, beyond simply being too samey, it's not looking too hot. Now, I don't even think it would crack my bottom 5 Mega Man games ever, because good lord, we're not even into the X series yet. But this is quite a noticeable outlier from the consistently great titles you were getting prior. Now, why is that? Well, that's what I'm here to answer. So this is my take on Mega Man 5. So, if you played Mega Man 4, Mega Man 5 should be pretty familiar territory. Unlike Mega Man 3 and 4, practically nothing has been altered in the gameplay, nor has anything really been added to the general formula of the game. The game is so similar that even Wikipedia denotes this. It's no surprise that when it comes to creativity, Mega Man 5 is pretty bankrupt in that regard. The only notable thing that's changed between 4 and 5 is the charge shot, which is slightly more damage now, and granted it still feels awesome to use, but it really doesn't have that huge impact on the gameplay like the slide did. And in fact, it's arguably even downgraded from Mega Man 4, since getting hit removes the charge entirely, which is really silly to be honest. It's not a huge loss, as you'll still be relying on this thing more often than not, but the changes definitely irritated me more than it helped. I guess the offset for this added challenge is the greatly increased life drop, which isn't a bad thing per se, but it doesn't really help the already easy stages that Mega Man 5 contains. It's really hard to die in Mega Man 5 unless you go into, say, spikes or a pit, but even then, that's really not a big issue here. In terms of difficulty, Mega Man 5 is definitely the easiest of the NES saga, no questions asked. Probably even easier than Mega Man 2 Easy Mode. Besides lacking that typical trial and error formula, it's really just not a hard game in general. There's not many spikes nor pits, and overall the gameplay is just really easy. Probably the hardest this game gets is Crystal Man stage, but that's also a stage that can easily be dethroned with remotely decent timing. Not only is the level design just generally far more basic and not life-threatening at all, assuming you played Mega Man 4 prior, these stages are really easy and nothing that simple trial and error can't overcome. There's not many challenges in the way of Mega Man 5, and even the challenges within Mega Man 5 really aren't that fun. Not from poor design or anything, they're just not that well thought out. To explain why, I'll have to analyze level design a bit. Mega Man 5 without a doubt is the most straightforward entry in the series when it comes to level design. Like, that's not a bad thing, but compared to literally every other Mega Man game we've seen thus far, it has the most basic level design. But weirdly enough, it seems to continue that weird gimmick trend that Mega Man 4 had, but it doesn't really evolve on it as much as it likes to think it did. The levels are far more dynamic, but they're also a lot more basic to compensate in terms of sheer design. Take this one train level. Visually, the stage is awesome and fast-paced, but that doesn't really amount to much in the stage itself. It's a pretty flat stage with no real twists or turns. You kind of just keep pushing forward until the stage just kind of ends. And there are other stages like Wave Man, which honestly barely counts as a stage. Most of it is spit on this unfun water riding section. Hooray. I guess to be fair to 5, Waveman stage is more of an outlier compared to the rest, but also pretty much every stage in this game had nothing major going for it. Now there are certain ideas in Mega Man 5 which should lend themselves to be decent stages, but at the same time it's all just very predictable. Or at the very least, just not executed all the best. As another example of this dynamic gimmick but not really great stage, we have Starman stage. In this stage, you're forced into anti-gravity, which is not a bad concept in and of itself, but it just doesn't do anything with itself, like straight up. Like, you just time your jumps slightly differently. Which, if you're actually on to Mega Man 5, you could probably recall this in Mega Man 2. You know, Bubble Man stage. And something like Flipping Gravity and Gravity Man stage is just not really that fun. It has the same issue as the train stage. The level itself doesn't really change, you're just flipping gravity for whatever reason. And the one time it actually does change the stage, it's only to get a lame life up, which is just really not that great in terms of design. There should be at least a baseline challenge, but Mega Man 5 really doesn't present it all that much. I'm all for adding challenge to get extra goodies, but this really isn't it for me. In Mega Man 5, you really never have to engage with a gimmick at even a remotely difficult level, leading to a very underwhelming stage roster in general. Well, I say underwhelming, but I don't think Mega Man 5 has really that bad level design at times. But it still does feel quite average. The level design is undoubtedly below the quality of 2 and 4's level design, which I found to be really fun and engaging. But Mega Man 5 just really doesn't push the player to go to their limits at all. Just feels like they're checking off the list of making a Mega Man stage, never mind the fact that these stages don't really sport any sense of identity on their own, because I genuinely can't emphasize that enough. They have all these gimmicks but just never do anything with them. In fact, Mega Man 5 is so legitimately one note that I honestly don't know where to even continue here. The story still does that fake out shit, the game doesn't really do much else with the formula, and overall, there's really not much new to talk about with Mega Man 5. As I brought up in Mega Man 4, I've talked about the creative process on this channel. Now, the biggest challenge of making an enjoyable review in this series is avoiding repetition. I want all of these videos to stand out on their own while also being fairly bingeable in their own right, but Mega Man 5 legitimately has nothing else to cover. Beyond basic level design, everything else is the exact goddamn same, man. It was genuinely not fun to write about, and I cannot stress that enough. So you know what? F it. I'm putting the pen down. The review is cancelled.
That's it?
Wait! Don't touch that dial!
Everyone say hello to my fellow reviewer and good buddy username, I think. As a fellow Mega Man enthusiast and game talker, she's just gonna take over for a few minutes while I go on my coffee break. See you in like 5 minutes or so, maybe.
Thanks, Zeus. It's good to be here. As Zeus was just saying, Mega Man 5's level design, while it has a lot of decent ideas at its core, ends up falling kind of flat more often than not, due to the fact that Mega Man 5 doesn't really explore its gimmicks and enemies all that far, compared to an entry like, say, Mega Man 4. Unfortunately, the flat level design isn't the only thing hampering Mega Man 5's difficulty. See, if you've played Mega Man 4, you likely remember the charge shot, a feature that will become a staple addition to the character's moveset in later entries to come. It was a really nice addition that allowed you to store a more powerful shot for when you weren't blasting away enemies. And while the Charge Buster was a very useful tool, this is very important, it was properly balanced around the rest of the game. Yes, the charge shot was a powerful tool that could help you do a lot more damage than the basic shot, but you still had reasons to use both the basic shot and the weapons, even with the charge shot in your roster. Mega Man 4's weapon roster in particular does an incredible job of differentiating its weapons enough to where you'd want to use it over the charge shot in certain situations, be it form or power, etc. So overall, Mega Man 4's Charge Shot, while it's a very reliable tool for Mega Man's kit and still very useful, it's balanced in a way to where it doesn't overpower the entire game, and there are times when to and when not to use it over the other weapons. This is not at all the case in Mega Man 5. Mega Man 5's charge shot is flat out busted, and I genuinely believe it's like 70% of the reason why Mega Man 5 is so easy. It's like the metal blade of Mega Man 5, and I'm not fucking around when I say this. I'm dead fucking serious. Now, Zeus did briefly touch upon how overpowered the charge shot was in Mega Man 5, but it was a pretty short summary, all things considered, so I wanted to go truly in depth as to why. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a call real quick. Let me just take this. Hey, hello, who am I speaking to? He said the charge shot was worse than Mega Man 4's? Look, I know the topic of Mega Man 5's charge shot doesn't really seem like enough to warrant a whole discussion, especially given that Mega Man 5 is already a pretty easy game as is, but I feel like it is criminally understated just how much Mega Man 5's charge shot trivializes every challenge in this game, and given the absolutely appalling information that I have just been made aware of by a completely unknown and anonymous source, I feel like now is a more important time than ever for me to demonstrate why this mechanic alone simply breaks Mega Man 5. And I'm just gonna cut straight to the chase and say, well, it's because nearly every enemy in this game gets one shot by this thing. Admittedly though, this isn't entirely the fault of the charge shot. See, barring weapon weaknesses, each weapon in the Mega Man games usually does a set amount of damage to enemies, with the charge shot always dealing 3 damage as opposed to the basic shot's 1. So to balance this out, back in Mega Man 4, there was a decent amount of variety when it came down to the enemy's health bars. There were some enemies that would get one shot by the charge buster in order to incentivize you to use it more, but some took quite a few more hits before needing to be knocked out. It was a good way to encourage the use of other weapons, but unfortunately, Mega Man 5's enemies are not balanced like this at all. To make my point, I took a look back at every single basic enemy from Mega Man 5 that could actually be damaged by the buster shot, and out of the 45 enemies that fit this criteria, 36 of them are clean one-hit KOs from the charge buster. Hell, even enemies that you would never even expect to be one-shot from the charge buster, like the Crystal Joes and Crystal Man stage, or these huge-ass tigers from Napalm Man stage, still die in a singular shot. And you know what else doesn't help? The fact that these enemies are pretty much lined up ready to get hit by your big-ass charge shot. Because yes, while having most of your enemies be O-code by your weapon is a pretty huge fucking problem when it comes to balancing, it could have at least been mitigated with some decent enemy placement, or enemies that punish you for going too crazy on the B button. Literally anything to prevent you from just using the charge shot constantly. But whenever enemies in Mega Man 5 aren't placed directly in front of you as you screen transition, which also fucking sucks, they're almost always lined up right in front of your line of sight, ready to be one-shot by the buster. So half the time, you won't even be able to see what the enemies do in the stage, because there's barely any enemies that are placed outside the range of your buster. Even after having explained so much, however, and with footage to hopefully make my point, I don't think I could ever properly get across just how much the charge shot buries this game in the sand. I feel like the only way for any of you watching this to believe me is to boot up Mega Man 5 and see for yourself how many of these enemies get destroyed by the charge shot, because it was noticeable to me even when I first played. And if you don't think that trivializing the levels isn't that big a deal as it's only a part of the game, well, first of all, the levels are where you spend most of your time playing the game. And second of all, the levels aren't the only thing left feeling lackluster from an overpowered charge shot, as it heavily hinders the usefulness of Mega Man 5's weapon roster. Mega Man 5's weapon roster is just really weird all around. It's overall just not a very great weapon roster, practically speaking, but it's not terrible in the sense that the weapons have so many caveats to them that they only end up situational at best, like some of Mega Man 2's weapons. It's more so that the weapons are fine all around, but they just end up getting outclassed by the weapon that's designed to bend the game over backwards with the press of a single button, like the other half of Mega Man 2's weapons. Like I mentioned earlier, Mega Man weapons have a set amount of damage they do to most enemies, and in the case of the charge shot, that's 3 hit points of damage. But I kid you not, aside from the charge kick sometimes, there's not a single weapon in Mega Man 5's roster that does more than 2 damage to any given enemy. The only thing that really changes between each weapon is what form it takes, like grounded or aerial for example. So unless there's an enemy that's really out of the way, it's more practical to just use the charge shot and just one-shot the enemy as opposed to bringing out your weapons. And that's a huge shame, because I actually felt like Mega Man 5 was pretty well designed around its special weapons for the most part. It might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but honestly, Mega Man 5's weapon roster might be some of the most fun I've had with a Mega Man weapon selection in a good while. It's definitely the most fun I've had with Mega Man 5 as a whole, and certainly a refreshing change of pace over using the charge shot 24/7. Aside from the main 8 weapons received from beating the 8 Robot Masters, there are 2 other utility weapons introduced in this game. There's also Rush, Coil, and Jet, but they're pretty much identical to how they were in Mega Man 4, so I'm not going to talk about them. Those being the Super Arrow and Beat. The Super Arrow is a really cool utility weapon, functioning a lot like Item 2 from Mega Man 2 with the added utility of damaging enemies and sticking to walls. Like the Charge Kick, the Super Arrow isn't really that good of a weapon, but the amount of utility you get from it is insane, and it's one of the most fun weapons to toy with in this game. The other utility weapon in this game is a lot more unique, as in order to even use it at all, you have to find 8 letters scattered across each level spelling out Mega Man V. By doing so, you get to unlock Beat for the Wily stages, and, well, he's alright. He homes in on enemies, dealing damage to them before returning to Mega Man. Sometimes he deals a lot of damage, other times he does pretty much nothing. He's useful for the Wily fight, I guess. He's not bad in this game, but it's kind of a shame given how fun it is to unlock him, and just how much potential this letter collecting brings to the level design in this game. And with that, that's pretty much all the weapons present in Mega Man 5. Despite having a decent amount of complaints with some of them, some more than others, I think it just really goes to show how much fun I had toying with this game's weapon roster and how memorable it was. And I think having a fun and memorable weapon roster is one of the best things you could do for any Mega Man game, so I have to give huge props to Mega Man 5 because of it. But it's genuinely a shame that because of how poorly Mega Man 5 is balanced around its charge shot, the weapons aren't very practical to use in the stages and won't see much use because of that. And sure, you could just forgo using the charge shot in favor of experimenting with the weapons, especially since Mega Man games in general are at their best when experimenting with them and trying to see when they're at their most useful. But that also means that Mega Man 5 is also at its best when foregoing one of its core mechanics entirely in favor of a method of killing enemies that's a lot slower and a lot less practical. But if you're relying on the charge shot to defeat enemies, it makes the game feel like such a slog when you're just blasting away at enemies the exact same way every time, without even using the weapons, because why would you when you have a more efficient way to deal with them in your core moveset? Either way, you're foregoing one of the things that makes Mega Man feel like Mega Man, and it just feels like a really bad pick your poison situation all around. Oh yeah, while I'm already on the topic of elements that make Mega Man feel like Mega Man, I might as well touch upon this game's selection of Robot Masters, and let me just cut to the chase by saying that I am not a big fan of this game's boss roster. Honestly, I've never been a fan of how most of the NES-era Mega Man games handled their Robot Masters, and I feel like it wasn't until around Mega Man 7 where they truly figured out what makes a Robot Master fight great. Now, don't get me wrong, there are still some good fights throughout this era, but I feel like 90% of these fights end up running into one of two major problems. Sometimes their patterns are way too difficult for any casual player to properly decipher.
Okay! Yes! Practice finally paid off!
Other times, the Robot Master does have a discernible pattern, but it's so piss easy to dodge or so blatantly obvious what they're gonna do that you can pretty much just win the fight scot-free every single time. It's a shame that so many Robot Masters on the NES come across these two pitfalls, but Mega Man 5's Robot Masters are especially egregious with mainly the latter problem. Pretty much every Robot Master's design in Mega Man 5 can be boiled down to two attacks that the game repeats over and over until the Robot Master eventually keels over. Like, take any Robot Master from the game, let's say Wave Man, and look at his pattern. Wave Man shoots some water out of the ground in a random location, then he shoots a spear and jumps to the other side. That's the entire fight. I'm not joking. Hell, look at some of the other Robot Masters in this game. Gravity Man shoots a projectile out of your location while moving to the other side, then changes gravity, rinse and repeat. Starman creates a barrier, jumps towards your location a set amount of times, and slowly fires the barrier. Rinse and repeat. Starman literally just jumps towards your location over and over again. I have not seen him use his Power Stone attack once. Now, I know it sounds like I'm ragging on these bosses simply for having easy to spot patterns, but that's not what I'm trying to get across. A good Robot Master should have recognizable patterns for the player to anticipate, because God knows we don't need another quick man fight in this series. However, recognizing the boss's pattern should not make the boss an automatic win. They should also test the player's reaction time to these attacks. Mix it up a little bit so the player doesn't get a little bit bored, and actually test the player on their platforming and shooting skill. Move to the other side of the field and repeat that pattern for the rest of the fight. That's how most of the Robot Master fights in Mega Man 5 play out. Now, I did say most Robot Masters, not all, as I still believe there are 2 Robot Masters in this game that are really well designed. Yeah, 2. Doesn't sound great, but it's certainly better than some other games. The 2 fights I'd like to take the time to shout out are Gyro Man and Charge Man's fights. Gyro Man's fight is seemingly pretty simple, but in execution it's actually pretty fun and very fast paced. Gyro Man will either toss one of his gyro attacks at you, kinda like Magnet Man does, or rise up to the sky, toss the gyro attack from there, and fall on top of you. It seems like it'd just be another really easy Mega Man fight, but the clouds at the top of the screen are what makes it. You really have to react fast to pretty much every attack in this fight, and while it's not the most difficult by any stretch of the imagination, it's still pretty fun. Charge Man, though, is a bit different. Unlike the rest of the Robot Masters in the game, Charge Man will pretty much spend the entire fight walking towards your location, broken up by literally charging at you and pausing, and launching hot coals from the top of the screen. Like with Gyro Man, this doesn't seem like it play out that well, but in execution, it's surprisingly fun and flows very nicely, to the point where I'd say it's probably my favorite Robot Master fight in the game. These two are definitely great examples of how good Robot Master fights on the NES could be, so it's a shame that none of the other fights really even come close to how fun these two could be. Now that I've touched upon how Mega Man 5 handles the mechanics you'd expect from a Mega Man game, it's finally time to talk about the rising action of the Mega Man series, the Endgame stages. Mega Man 5, like Mega Man 4, is split into 2 sections in the Endgame, those being Proto Man's Fortress and Wily's Castle like the rest of the games. Let's start with Proto Man's Fortress first, and the stages here... Okay, does this guy not realize I'm doing a video here? Sorry, I gotta take this again. Hello?
I think it's time to go back.
Oh, this is still Zeus's video, isn't it? Okay, gotcha. I'll leave the rest of the video to him. Alright, so I've got to head out very soon due to anonymous and unknown sources. Yeah. Thanks for having me on your channel, Zeus, and if you can handle the endgame for me, that would be really great. Alright, I'll catch you all later. See ya!
But before we do, make sure to follow username on all of these platforms that I have on screen. This is kind of an idea we've been having for a long time, just to do a collab just for fun. So I hope the wait was worth it. I'm sorry that this video got delayed so many times. And now it's time for the video to come to a close. Alright, so we finally get to the Wily stages, and to be frank, I really don't have much else to say about them. A la Mega Man 4. Like Mega Man 4, there's still 2 tiers of stages, and thankfully these are a bit more dynamic than your average Mega Man 5 stage, but there's still not much else to note here. Hell, not even the bosses are all that great. Like, seriously, what's going on here? The bosses are so crazily one note here. Like, time your jumps after you shoot, or don't hit the barriers on the boss, or whatever the fuck's going on with boss 3. And hell, that sentiment also applies to the stages too. It's all just straightforward with no lasting gimmicks, and the one time they do something neat is in the very last stage, which is literally like 1 minute long maybe. But hey, there's a decent fight in here, at the very least. This guy's kinda cool, but nothing too special. It takes the one-note nature of the other bosses and merges them into a somewhat tricky fight, which is a decent idea. Anyways, after the oh yeah, I forgot to cover the story. Proto Man bad, but fuck you, it's Dr. Wily. Alright, back to Mega Man 5. Hey, this song isn't too bad. Hey, this level's actually kinda tricky. There's gimmicks too. Granted, one of them is literally ripped from Ringman stage. These bosses are kind of good. No, there's no way. They actually made Mega Man 5 kind of fun. There's practically only 2 stages in this lineup, given that stage 3 is just the rematches and stage 4 is nothing but a boss fight. But it's certainly the best Mega Man 5 offers in terms of stages, and it's really an outlier in terms of everything. Hey, the bosses are pretty solid too, minus the first and last Wily fights, which are pretty much a wash. With the first one, it's just ridiculously easy to win. The last one is pretty easy if you have beat, which happens if you get the 8 letters in every stage. But even then, it's not really that hard. You should basically have all of these by the end of the game. Now, once you do that, you can unlock beat, sit back, and relax. You don't even have to aim. Beat will just keep attacking Wily, it takes 0 effort. And seeing as how easy Beat is to get, I feel like most people will just sweep this boss without trouble. Anyway, Mega Man saves the day once more, and... oh shit! Mega Man still got that super arm in him, I guess. Wily runs off to wherever anyone can know. Proto Man saves Mega Man in light, letting them live on another day. And with that, Mega Man 5 just kind of ends, just like my thoughts on it. Mega Man 5 is a largely okay game. It borrows a lot from Mega Man 4, but unlike the prior entries, it doesn't do enough to the point where I could call it anything above good. It's a game that is perfectly average in almost every respect, but fails to best some of the best games in the classic series. When it has okay levels, okay bosses, and really nothing else to note, it's a well-rounded game, but not as well-rounded as its predecessors. Like Mega Man 1, I'd say it's not a must-play game, but given all my complaining, I honestly wouldn't hesitate to play it again. It's a fine game. Nothing more, nothing less, and that's perfectly okay. Now, a lot of you are probably surprised to give my ultimate verdict on Mega Man 5, given that I basically just complained all this video, but I legitimately think that Mega Man 5 is a good enough game. Not a great one, not one that I'd play every day, and certainly one that doesn't even rank close to the top of the roster for me. But it also doesn't really do anything that explicitly wrong compared to something like Mega Man 3. So overall, I think it's fine, but like I said, that's about as far as I'd go personally. But a lot of people seem to really like Mega Man 5, and a lot of people seem to be in the wrong. But that's not here nor there, because the next game, everyone universally agrees, is actually pretty good. Mega Man 6, the last game for the NES, and one of the best in the NES saga. So I hope you tune in for that. But for now, that's a story for another time. Hey guys, zeusdeegoose here. That is yet another Mega Man video down, and I'm really sorry for the delay on this one. Just a lot of stuff was happening in my personal life. I didn't have much time to focus on YouTube. But I hope this one was worth the wait, and I hope you had a good time watching it, especially with the collab. So, next up is definitely Mega Man 6, but I also want to, acknowledge the success of that Street Pass video, because that was my best performing video today. It got me to 100 subscribers, which, by the way, thank you so much for that. And it's just one of my favorite videos I've ever made in general. Probably the hardest video I've ever made, to be honest, because I just put so much time. I crunched on that video like hell. And I think it paid off ultimately, and I think it was a pretty good video. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. But next up on the radar is definitely Mega Man 6, right? I haven't started the script on it, but it should be coming along nicely, and I hope it's not as long as a wait as Mega Man 4 was, or, well, this video, my bad. So, other than that, I think I might try writing other scripts, because I got a little burnt out from Mega Man 5, I'm not gonna lie. I think I could probably put push into Mega Man 6. After Mega Man 6, I might take a little hiatus from Mega Man for a bit, and I'll definitely come back to finish it. But I really like that weird experimental video that I did, and I think it really, pushed zeusdeegoose farther than it's ever been before in like my entire career. As not only just this channel, but like other channels that I've worked on. Because if you don't know, zeusdeegoose is the product of like maybe 3 failed channels all coming together. Me learning from those mistakes and all that. But it's been real. It's been a fun time. So yeah, next up, definitely Mega Man 6. After that, I feel the experimental videos will be coming back. So that's great. That Nickelodeon All-Star Ball video also, that one is still in the works. I've just been getting crazy writer's block on it, and I've had no excuse, to be honest. Like, to be frank, I've had everything down for it for like the past 2 months, and I've really just not worked on it since. So I might do that as the next experimental video, but I also might do another 3DS video. So just a heads up. And I also, I'm thinking of doing more game reviews. I don't know what exactly to review now after Mega Man. I think I could go back into more Capcom stuff that's probably easier to record. But, it's neither here nor there. So, I think that's all I really wanted to say right now. Thanks for sticking with me, thanks for 100 subs, and thanks for all the support. Like, zeusdeegoose, when I started doing YouTube for the first time, YouTube was like really goddamn hard. Like, I used to get maybe 10 or at best 100 views on one video, but now I'm just easily clearing above 100 views. And this isn't really the place to talk about it. But if you wanted to do a YouTube channel right now, I'd really suggest you do it. Cause like this is the best time, you got, all these tools, you arguably have the most exposure when it comes to YouTube now than ever. Well, besides the like early days where everything could blow up, but like, But that's really neither here nor there, so I want to close this video out by saying once again, thanks so much. Subscribe to Username. She's been my co-writer for this and a good friend of me for basically since 2022, I tried to say, but that's a whole nother thing. I think this collab went really well, and I'd like to do more Friends collabs. So, yeah. So that's something to look forward to. And something to look forward to is this closing outro, or fuck, this card slideshow. So be sure to subscribe and tune in next time for more Goose.